Sania Khan was a young woman whose life, while brief, was filled with significant accomplishments and courage. Born in 1993, she was the daughter of Pakistani Muslim immigrants, Haider Farooq Khan and Sania Khan. She grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, a city that shaped much of her early identity. Sania's upbringing in the United States meant that she was part of the first generation of her family born in America, and this placed her in a unique position of balancing both her cultural heritage and the American values that were influential in her life. Sania attended the Chattanooga School for the Arts and Sciences, a decision that reflected her early interest in arts and creative expression. She was known to be a dedicated student with a passion for learning, and this passion carried over into her later life choices. After completing high school, Sania attended the University of Tennessee Chattanooga, where she pursued a double major in psychology and women's studies. This combination of fields demonstrated her commitment to understanding both human behavior and the social systems that influence individuals, particularly women. She was particularly interested in the ways that culture, mental health, and gender intersect in society, an interest that would later influence her advocacy work, especially in sharing her experiences through social media. Sania's academic background, combined with her passion for photography, led her to work as a professional photographer. She had an eye for capturing beauty and emotion, and her work reflected the depth of her understanding of people's lives. Photography was more than just a career for Sania, it was a way for her to connect with others and to explore and document stories of human experiences. This creative outlet would eventually become an essential part of how she shared her own personal journey, particularly during the most difficult time in her life. Sania married Raheel Ahmad in June 2021 after 5 years of dating. The couple had initially met and formed a relationship based on mutual attraction, but their marriage soon became strained. Friends and acquaintances of Sania would later describe a noticeable change in her demeanor after the wedding. Raheel, who had struggled with his own mental health issues, was reported to have frequent emotional breakdowns and exhibited behaviors that were alarming to those around him. These issues, compounded by his threats of self-harm, created a tense and unstable home environment. Sania, who had always been known for her strength and resilience, found herself increasingly isolated as she faced the harsh realities of her marriage. Her friends and family noticed that she seemed to be withdrawing from her usual optimistic self, and this raised concerns. After months of turmoil, Sania made the difficult decision to file for divorce in December 2021. The decision was not easy, especially in a culture where divorce is often stigmatized, particularly within South Asian Muslim communities. Sania faced judgment and pushback from some members of her own family, who viewed her choice as shameful. But despite the cultural pressure, Sania remained resolute in her decision. She understood that her mental and emotional well-being had to come first, and she knew that she deserved to live a life free from fear and manipulation. Sania's choice to pursue a divorce was a brave act of self-care and an act of defiance against the toxic norms that often silence women in such situations. As part of her healing process, Sania turned to social media, specifically TikTok, to share her story and connect with other women in similar situations. Initially hesitant, she felt that by speaking out about her experiences, she could help others in the same position. Sania's TikTok account grew rapidly, gaining over 20,000 followers. She became known for her raw and honest videos where she discussed topics like the emotional toll of divorce, the stigma surrounding it, and the taboo nature of discussing domestic violence within her community. Sania's vulnerability and courage resonated deeply with her followers, especially women of color who felt similarly trapped by cultural expectations. Through her TikTok videos, Sania advocated for women's rights, empowerment, and mental health awareness. She discussed how divorce was a painful yet necessary decision for her, not just for her own well-being but as an act of self-love. She explained how the traditional norms within her community often made it difficult for women to stand up for themselves and make decisions that were in their best interest. Her advocacy focused on breaking the silence around domestic violence and the pressures faced by women who choose to leave unhealthy relationships. She shared that her journey had been filled with emotional struggles, but she felt a sense of responsibility to her followers, especially other South Asian women, to share her experience. Despite facing criticism from some family members and community members, Sania felt empowered to continue using her platform to speak out against the harmful practices that kept women trapped in abusive relationships. Sania's decision to speak out on such a public platform was not without its challenges. She received criticism from some people who believed that divorce, especially in South Asian Muslim families, was not something to be openly discussed. Some of her family members expressed their disapproval of her actions, viewing them as shameful or rebellious. Yet Sania remained steadfast, understanding that her personal experience could help create change. She felt that by sharing her journey, she could provide a voice for those who were silenced by fear, shame, or cultural constraints. In the months leading up to her death, Sania was preparing to move back to her hometown of Chattanooga, Tennessee, to start a new chapter of her life. Her divorce was nearly finalized, and she had begun packing up her belongings, looking forward to being closer to her family and friends. Her move was symbolic of her determination to reclaim her life and move forward from the pain of her marriage. Sadly, this new beginning would never come to fruition, as Sania's life was tragically cut short by the very person who had once promised to love and cherish her. Sania's story is one of immense courage, resilience, and a pursuit of freedom in the face of societal and familial pressures. Through her TikTok videos, Sania not only shared her personal struggles but also became a beacon of hope for countless women facing similar circumstances. Her advocacy work, particularly around divorce and domestic violence, will be remembered as a testament to her bravery in the face of adversity. On July 18, 2022, Sania Khan's life was tragically cut short in a heart-wrenching act of domestic violence. The woman who had once been full of hope, ambition, and courage, was murdered by her estranged husband, Raheel Ahmad, in an act that shocked the nation and brought attention to issues of domestic violence, mental health, and the stigmatization of divorce in immigrant communities, particularly among South Asian Muslims. To understand how her life ended in such a horrific manner, it is necessary to look at the events that led to her tragic death, the dynamics of her marriage, the decisions she made to protect herself, and the final moments that unfolded on that fateful day. Sania's marriage to Raheel Ahmad began with promise, as the couple had been dating for about 5 years before getting married in June 2021. Initially, it appeared to be a relationship built on love and mutual understanding. However, once they tied the knot, things quickly began to change. Those close to Sania would later report that after the wedding, her demeanor changed. Her once vibrant and independent nature was increasingly overshadowed by Raheel's mental health issues, emotional instability, and disturbing behavior. He began to experience severe emotional breakdowns and would often threaten self-harm. Sania, who had always been strong and optimistic, found herself increasingly isolated in the marriage, dealing with emotional turmoil that no one outside of their home seemed to recognize. As Raheel's mental health deteriorated, Sania became the target of his outbursts and manipulative behavior. His threats to kill himself placed an enormous amount of pressure on Sania, who, despite her own emotional struggles, felt responsible for his well-being. However, the emotional manipulations soon escalated into more dangerous and controlling behavior. Sania found herself trapped in a situation where she was constantly walking on eggshells, afraid of Raheel's mood swings and unpredictable behavior. This dynamic created an environment where she began to lose herself, slowly becoming the victim of a man who was no longer the person she had married. By the end of 2021, after months of emotional and mental strain, Sania made the difficult decision to file for divorce. It was a decision that would change the course of her life, but one that she felt was necessary for her mental health and personal well-being. Despite the immense cultural and familial pressure to stay in the marriage, especially within their South Asian Muslim community, where divorce is often seen as taboo, Sania chose to prioritize her own safety and happiness. This decision was not taken lightly, and it was a brave step for someone who had spent much of her life trying to honor her family's values and the expectations of her community. Raheel's response to the divorce filing was predictable and dangerous. After Sania filed for divorce, Raheel began to distance himself emotionally, but he also became more volatile and unpredictable. He moved to Alpharetta, Georgia, while Sania remained in Chicago. The two were no longer living together, but the emotional scars of their marriage remained. Sania began to make preparations for the next chapter of her life, and she was also vocal about her journey. Through her TikTok account, which had amassed a following of over 20,000 people, Sania began sharing her experience with divorce, domestic violence, and the stigma surrounding these topics in the South Asian community. She used her platform to educate and empower women who found themselves in similar situations, offering advice, sharing her pain, and helping others break free from the silence that often surrounds these issues. Despite her decision to leave her marriage, Raheel continued to exhibit unhealthy and obsessive behavior. At some point, he reportedly made threats that he would not let Sania go easily, and his emotional instability seemed to be getting worse. Sania, however, remained resolute in her decision to proceed with the divorce. She was determined to move forward, to rebuild her life, and to reclaim her sense of self. As the months passed, Sania planned to return to her hometown of Chattanooga, Tennessee, to start fresh. Her final divorce hearing was set for August 2022, and she was preparing to leave Chicago. Little did she know that Raheel would travel from Georgia to Chicago with deadly intentions. On the morning of July 18, 2022, Raheel Ahmad made the journey to Chicago, determined to confront Sania. He had apparently been spiraling in his mental health, and this trip would become the final, tragic act of violence that ended Sania's life. Raheel's decision to take matters into his own hands was likely fueled by the combination of emotional instability, possessiveness, and resentment over the divorce. It is clear that he could not accept Sania's decision to end their marriage, and he was determined to forcefully reassert control over her life, regardless of the consequences. Raheel arrived at Sania's apartment in Chicago, where she had been living since their separation. The details of the events that transpired are chilling and hard to comprehend. According to reports, Raheel entered the apartment and confronted Sania. The exact nature of their conversation remains unclear, but it is likely that it quickly escalated into a violent altercation. In an act of rage and possessiveness, Raheel shot Sania in the back of the head. She died instantly, her life taken away in an act of brutality that shocked everyone who knew her. In the aftermath of the shooting, Raheel attempted to take his own life. He was discovered by police with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to his head. The police found a 9mm Glock handgun and a suicide note, indicating that Raheel had planned to end his life after killing Sania. Despite being rushed to Northwestern Hospital, Raheel succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead shortly after. His death, while ending his ability to face justice for his crime, did not erase the impact of his actions. The murder of Sania Khan was a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked emotional instability and domestic violence, and it brought the issue of abusive relationships into the spotlight, especially within immigrant communities that often fail to address these issues openly. At the time of her death, Sania was in the process of relocating to Chattanooga, planning to rebuild her life and put the horrors of her marriage behind her. She had been preparing to start fresh, closer to her family and friends, with a renewed sense of independence and freedom. Tragically, she was not given the opportunity to fulfill her dreams or to continue her advocacy work for other women in similar situations. Her TikTok account, where she had shared her painful journey with the world, became a powerful testament to her strength and resilience. Through her videos, she had touched the lives of many women who saw in her a reflection of their own struggles. Sania's story was one of empowerment, and her voice was silenced too soon. Sania's murder left a deep impact on those who knew her and on the broader community. The tragic and untimely death of Sania Khan serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers that can lie within toxic relationships, and how the silence around domestic violence can have devastating consequences. Sania's story is not just one of pain and loss, but also one of courage and resilience. By sharing her experience with her TikTok followers, she opened a dialogue about the often taboo topics of divorce and domestic abuse within South Asian communities. She became a beacon of hope for many women trapped in similar situations, showing them that it is okay to walk away from a relationship that no longer serves them, no matter the societal pressures or personal fears. Her life and death have sparked important conversations that need to continue. It is essential that we break the silence surrounding domestic violence, especially in communities where stigma and cultural expectations can make it harder for victims to seek help. While we mourn the loss of a woman with so much promise, we also carry her message forward: the importance of mental health awareness, the need to address emotional and physical abuse, and the necessity of creating environments where victims can speak out without fear of judgment or retribution. Sania's legacy lives on not only in the conversations she inspired but in the lives she touched through her bravery and her willingness to share her story. We must remember that domestic violence does not discriminate, and no one should have to endure it in silence. Her story is a testament to the power of courage, and through her legacy, we can make sure that her voice, and the voices of others like her, will never be forgotten.